So on this 26th of April, most of the coverage and news that I'm seeing and looking through is dealing with Pope-related stuff, the funeral of the Pope, which happened hours ago as I'm recording this. But a lot of the other chatter that's getting mixed in there on the mainstream media folks are on deportation sort of efforts. And so I want to get this story right here because this is a story that disturbs me a lot. So in the vein of getting more news out there so we get a good mix of news for everyone throughout the weekend, let me go through this one. It's first the write-up from the robot editor. This is on the deportation of a 2-year-old U.S. citizen. Now, let me say that straight. This is a 2-year-old, a actual citizen who's been deported with no real due process. U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty has raised serious concerns over the deportation of a 2-year-old U.S. citizen identified as V.M.L. for documentation, who was removed to Honduras along with her Honduran-born mother and older sister. This deportation occurred following a routine check-in at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office in New Orleans, ICE office in New Orleans. The judge criticized the government's action, stating that there was a, quote, strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process. ICE officials claimed that the mother consented to the daughter's deportation, presenting a handwritten letter in Spanish as evidence. However, the judge questions the validity of this consent, especially given that the child's father was actively seeking custody and was only allowed a brief 1-minute phone call with the mother during the detention. A hearing is scheduled for May 16th to investigate the matter further. Now, we're going to go jump back to El Salvador for just a minute with Chris Van Hollen, the senator from Maryland, who went to El Salvador to meet with Kilmar Albergo Garcia, who is a Maryland resident, not a citizen, who by all accounts, even by the administration, mistakenly deported despite a court order preventing his removal. But in that case, the government's not doing anything to get him back. And they're pretty vocal in the not getting him back. Abrego Garcia, is married to a U.S. citizen. A baby's on the way. I think the baby may have been here by now. And there's a lot going back and forth on their issues. Was there a time where she called the cops on him for domestic abuse and didn't file charges? Was he a gang member from the past who's fighting his way? Was he arrested with gang members? Just whatever. But he was detained or sent to the Terrorism Confinement Center, the CCOT, in El Salvador. Apparently, after Van Hollen went looking for him, they moved him out there and had the little photo op things going there. The larger question with these deportations are the national attention coming for just the faux pas in the administration not doing their due diligence to keep things going on. It's one thing to have a big hammer and want to swing it around to make sure you get things done. It's something else to actually have a permit to bash down one particular house and making sure you're only hitting that house and not hitting other houses nearby. Most of the issue that goes along with these deportations or this issue is not anything that's cruel and heartless or things like that. It's literally bad paperwork. If a 2-year-old who is a citizen who went along with her mother, because the mother was not a citizen, was being deported, is fine, except for apparently she has a father. The 2-year-old has a father who's an American citizen who could have taken over the child. If the issue was a custody battle back and forth, that's a domestic dispute that should not be involved in. The issue that's ongoing with Abrego Garcia, it's a big mess. It's a pretty easy thing that when it came down to it, in an interview this past weekend, I guess, preparing for the 100 days of Donald Trump hitting his 100 days, apparently one reporter just finally asked, did you ask El Salvador to bring him back? And Trump was like, actually, I didn't really ask. No one thought to get me to ask him. Although the president of El Salvador said he's not going to bring him back. Apparently, he wasn't even asked in the first place. The deportations. There's nothing wrong with immigration sweeping up people and sending them back to where they came from. And I say it just like that on purpose, and it sounds mean, but it is. That's not the problem. There are problems when you're reaching for low-hanging fruit, when you're touting that you're sending back all the killers and all the rapists and all the bad guys that they let out of prisons, when you're picking up just waitresses and housekeeping staff and roofers and folks that literally aren't doing very much and actually are contributing to the economy in a sense, doing the jobs that when they go away, no one is going to do because there's nobody clamoring to do housekeeping or waitressing or roofing. Those aren't the jobs that are being taken. And we're not pulling back on the HB1B visas for folks that are overstaying their visa and looking for high-tech jobs. These are literally low-hanging fruit. People working packing plants, people working on construction lines, things like that. I am not for the demise of Donald J. Trump. I am looking forward to the end of his term, seeing how things have progressed, seeing how the next guy, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, will continue on or fix or do whatever going forward. In going forward, as we continue to be a great nation. Unfortunately, Donald J. Trump's not doing great nation things, and this is one particular thing here. So, comments. Have at me. The 2-year-old thing, completely disturbing. Really bad. I just can't quite get that one. Abreu Garcia, it's disturbing. It's just bad. It's bad paperwork, and admitting you have bad paperwork and fixing it. All the crazy stories about detentions and deportations are just that. They're crazy, and they don't have to be. Your comments on deportations, on Donald Trump, on me, on Abreu Garcia and Senator Van Hollen, if you want to. Give them to me. We're ready.